much more about the disruption it was able to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, it can offer a lot of zone control where you have to try and run away, or you can, as you say, offer that disruption. I think as well, it's like, that's basically the style of her whole kit is, you know, hey, we're going to try and get that disruption down. Because even when you look at the ability to stop someone from dying works out incredibly well. You're able to just go, hey, look, you know, you're going to stay there. You're just going to survive. And if you've got it like resets for Jinx, for Ahri, for these kind of champions that rely on them a lot, that's where it can really cause even further disruption because that person doesn't die. Maybe you end up, because you don't get the reset, you end up dying. Then you get the opposite side. It's that person actually stays alive. No kills go across. It can end up being very messy. But we are back into our draft. Looks like that was actually supposed to be a Lulu lock-in. So we are not going to have Renata this game. Glad we spent so long talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, it was a fun conversation. I like talking to you, especially about Renata. Trundle and Gnar are going to be locked in to try and answer this Lulu, but the enchanters in the bottom lane. I will say Lulu with Zhao, incredibly aggressive combo. You can do so much work with that kind of combo in the jungle, but also will do a lot to try and deny the all-ins from SouthWind on the Rakan, right? Lulu does very well, and you can pull him off the Rakan as soon as he goes in and just blow him up.
All right. It's too late because it's now locked in. I was about to say, what if this is actually just big brain? They take the Lulu for the top lane for Aliez, and then it's actually going to be the Renata still coming through for ShiauC. But not going to be the case.
I don't think that would be big brain, Dagda. I'm just going to throw it out.
I mean, Lulu's pretty good against the Gnar. I'm just saying. But either way, you've rightly pointed out Lulu does well against Gnar with the being able to shut him down. Engage is going to be a little bit more difficult for TT. I think for Ultra Prime as well, you've now got a really strong 1-4 where Camille can 1v1 that Gnar. And the big thing about Camille is that she bypasses a lot of the issues that you see the Hull Breaker, because she does trio damage. So a lot of her damage isn't necessarily blocked by that Hull Breaker. So still going to have a good time against someone like the Gnar, who probably is going to go towards that. And then you've got a crazy strong 4-man unit that can just play through with Lulu, enabling the Zhao, enabling Jinx, great engage both from the Zhao and long range engage from mid lane from Cryin with this Syndra as well.
Yeah, it feels like plenty of ways to start things up here for Ultra Prime. I'm much happier with the composition for Ultra Prime here in Game 3 comparatively to Game number 2. TT, slightly less definition, I would say, in their comp comparatively to Game number 2, but you can still see the clear positions, right? They have ways to go in. The Ryze, obviously just an incredibly strong pick currently. Huge priority on that. But we need to see Ucal have a similar game to what we saw in Game number 2. Managed to get the MVP on this Ahri from influencing the rest of the map. And the Ryze is the perfect pick to be able to get out onto the rest of the map and have that influence, especially with such an aggressive bottom lane.
I mean, for at least for TT, I feel like you've got more ways to win the game. I think you've got the opportunity to go for those team fights, as you said, but also I think you can just look for a 1-3 with Ucal in the side lane, trying to pay for picks with SouthWind and kind of using the Realm Warp for Ucal to reposition yourself. So I definitely think if TT do get off to an early lead, they can certainly make things work for themselves. And I feel like, again, it's about Chieftain and Ucal trying to play through this point-and-click CC for Ucal. I mean, if you can blow Cryine's flash early, there's very few places that Cryin can run to. And even if you want to play it like Ucal flashes in, gets that point-and-click CC, you hold the pillar for Chieftain until Cryin flashes away, and then you just toss up the pillar and you can still chase down Cryin. So you have a ton of options for TT in how you want to approach this mid lane play.
Yeah, you certainly do. But so does Ultra Prime in terms of the 2v2, right? Like, that is an insanely aggressive 2v2 with the Zhao and the Syndra. I feel like if TT aren't careful, they could get caught out. Hacker has shown that he's been more than willing to be aggressive. Both junglers mirroring each other to start with, right? Beginning with their red buffs, doing it solo as well. And I don't think either team managed to get deep vision to start us off. So neither team will have full information. I'm keeping my eyes on Hacker, though, who could move down towards this bottom side and try and shut down Puff before he can get rolling like he did in game number 2.
I feel like for Hacker, it's going to be a case of like full clearing down towards the bot side. I imagine we'll actually see Chieftain go for a bit of a boomerang here, where you start red, hit your 2 solo camps on the top side, and then work your way back in towards Wolves. but I'm curious to see if it means that he ends up catching up with Hacker as Hacker tries to go into the bot side. Because Chieftain definitely, if you end up counter ganking Hacker in the early stages, it can be disastrous for the Zhao. Just because you go in one direction, like the Audacious Charge sets you in. If you then have a pillar to separate the team, suddenly you're on your own in no man's land.
There is no Audacious Retreat, only Audacious Charge. This guy only goes in one direction. But Chieftain actually looking towards the mid lane, instead trying to focus onto Cryin. Frozen Domain will help him close the gap, but actually just going to help clear that wave. And Cryin gives him a cheeky little Q for his trouble, but won't be able to do all too much about the situation. And Hacker will take this moment to go for an invade himself. Both junglers with Smite available. Who gets the chicken? Chieftain is the answer. And Hacker just has to retreat with his tail between his legs.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Ucal there. I mean, taking a ton of damage, it feels like, to try and position himself against Cryin, and meant that although TT tried to set up some sort of gank in the mid lane, Cryin had already just put too much damage onto Ucal and dissuade them. So nice job from the Ultra Prime mid laner to try and shut that down. And even if Hacker isn't able to get the play into the enemy jungle, it still just sends Chieftain off on his merry way. So again, you get Hacker with control over this bot side. He's going to clear his camps and look for the reset. So overall, just Ultra Prime, at least at the moment, kind of playing well against what TT are trying to do.
Nicely done here as Cryin continues to get these good trades onto Ucal. Will be pushed underneath his turret, and this is the power of the Ryze, right? This is why you pick that Ryze. You have priority in so many lanes. You're so good at just shoving that wave under. You build pretty much exclusively mana as well, so quite often you can just sit in the lane for hours at a time. Chieftain moving in, though. Had that Scuttle Crab, trying to get some deep vision as well, as he will drop a ward onto those Krugs and immediately will spot Hacker as he starts this one off. Will cancel his recall. Here we go, Dagda. The Smite just out of range. And Hacker gets the Krug, gets level 4, and suddenly Chieftain, this doesn't look as good as it once did. The flash forced. But he might not be able to escape on this one. But Cryin, you're in a 2v1. He's gone way too deep for the play. ShiauC is here, though. Try and save this one. The shield comes on through. Chieftain escapes with the Frozen Domain, or does he? Good little sidestep on the stun. Aliez trying to slow him. Does get the sweep on in. And Chieftain will fall for first blood.
Oh, it's a disaster from Chieftain. Thought, as you said, could move around, get the smite, stop the level 4 being hit from Hacker and look for the play, but not able to do so. And it means he's just caught out completely overextended. Good run from ShiauC as well. The Guardian and his own shield being able to give a little bit more of that health bar to Cryin, crucially, but doesn't mean Elk being zoned away from the spot lane tower. Ucal also here to support. This is now a big loss for Elk in this bot lane.
Yeah, this has been the story of the, oh my days, the all-in onto ShiauC. Elk, he's not just going to lose CS, he might lose his life on this one. Feathers underneath his feet right now, needs to be careful. SouthWind tanking the tower, will tank one more shot, but that is plenty. Puff with another kill. We said Hacker wanted to shut him down. The total opposite is happening in this bottom side.
And that's just really smart play from Ucal. Essentially baiting Ultra Prime into thinking, oh, we'd reset. Like, you look at his mana, you look at the position that it just happened in. Like, you had a really strong argument to say, look, Ucal had reset. There's no reason for me to go for, or to be worried about this bot lane, but he just sits there, waits for ShiauC to come back, and we're able to make the play. So nice job from the TT mid laner. And honestly, I mean, much better than we've seen from Ucal in Game 1. His Game 2 and Game 3 have been really good so far.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this feels very coordinated up on the top side. It felt like a coordinated dive in the bottom side as well. Like, honestly, that's the big thing that TT actually do well, right? Consistently diving this bottom lane and finding an advantage for Puff, which kind of is Ultra Prime's worst nightmare. That's the lane they usually win through. That's the lane they usually get an advantage through. And consistently, we're seeing Puff and SouthWind come ahead.
And that's where you can see that massive gold lead now. Puff sitting about 700 gold ahead of his counterpart. It's going to make it very easy for them to try and power through this bot side, although Hacker is here.
He is. Oh, dude. Too big. Just going to be shadowing this. See, I was telling you about this the other game, that shadowing. I feel like you already knew what shadowing was, didn't you? There's a flash forward from SouthWind and a route onto Elk as well. Great cleanse, but oh, the flame jumpers! And a Guardian on top. Elk, by the skin of his teeth, lives.
Still, though, this means that TT can push in this wave, make sure that Elk is losing out on even more gold. They may not get the turret play for themselves, but this is another loss now for Elk. Just SouthWind on this Rakan has been so good in setting up TT for success.
Really has SouthWind. Just going to get a little tag down before he commits to the recall alongside Puff. Just the power of the Xayah Rakan. Cryin slightly wide on the scat of the week. It means Ucal can just stick around in this lane and just continue to shove on in. And this doesn't get much easier when you're low on mana here for Cryin. He won't be able to contest the wave anymore. Ucal can happily just slam that mana in. Then again, bit of damage out from Cryin. He is out of mana though. Does not have the damage, and Chieftain just batters him with the club and sends Cryin home.
The Chieftain just trying to see if he can get some priority here in this mid lane. If he could burn a flash on Cryin, that would work wonders for the Rift Herald, which is kind of the next spot where TT want to try and use the advantages they have. ShiauC zooming his way onto Puff, but at the moment what I'd like to see TT do is try and push in this bot lane, see if they can then move that bot lane up towards the Rift Herald and look for a fight, but they kind of need to do it off this last reset. I was busy looking at mid lane, so didn't quite see where Puff and SouthWind had kind of set themselves up, but now that they're in bot side and Ucal hasn't reset either, I mean, you can see Ultra Prime, they're just going to take Rift Herald. I mean, this should have been a TT objective through and through. They have pressure bot, mid, and in top.
Yeah, this one is going to go the way of Ultra Prime, despite TT having control. Despite TT being almost 1,000 gold up before that Herald. Now be an advantage for Ultra Prime, but they will be able to trade it at least for some gold in this bottom side. Once again, it's Puff sweeping that up. It feels like Puff, especially on this Xayah pick, is becoming a significant focus for the side of TT. So they will find a third play of the game already. Whereas on the other side, you know, Elk, not a singular play. So the Herald is nice, but it feels like that Herald is going to be trying to recoup the damage that's been done as opposed to finding an advantage for Ultra.
Yeah, so, I mean, Ultra Prime should have had a bigger win off that play. I don't know why Elk and ShiauC started to roam the full way up to commit to the Rift Herald. They spotted Ucal, low health, low mana, in river. They could have just reset and gone back towards the bot lane and, you know, let Aliez and Hacker cover that on top side, have Cryin lean bot, and then you're kind of covering all the bases where TT can try and trade. But because they end up giving Puff more control again over this bot side, it doesn't quite work out as big of a win, and Chieftain is going to smite away this crab as kind of
very cheeky. Very cheeky indeed. I want to point out a statistic here, Dagda, that I think will lend a little credence to what we're talking about across the course of this game. And that's that when you look at the statistics for both of these AD carries in the league, like, obviously, they're not going to be topping many categories. Like, generally speaking, if you're not in one of the top teams, you're going to struggle, especially as an AD carry, to find good statistics. The one thing that Puff is topping the table is ADC jungle proximity. He is second in the league for jungle proximity because Chieftain loves to try and get involved on that bottom side of the map. And we keep on seeing this because TT set up these kind of, not even necessarily dives, just playing around that bottom lane tower, going behind it, denying the enemy ADs.
And I mean, at the moment, it's been working relatively well, although Puff and SouthWind this game have kind of been working through their own advantages, particularly SouthWind kind of setting those up. I agree. I think it's been pretty set, like, stock standard for TT as
Aliez getting ulted up in the top side. We'll be able to hookshot away. In the meantime, Ucal gets his realm warp denied, but Hacker in a 2v1 forces a flash out from Ucal. Hacker going full Chad mode. 2v1 from the jungle, finds a knockup, finds a bit more damage. Can't finish either of those solo laners off. He can open up an opportunity to use the Herald in the top side. In the meantime, there's that proximity we've been talking about so much. ShiauC gets knocked up, but actually the tower damage too much, and TT back away.
Also, with Cryin TPing in, they're able to force them back. So now that play on the bot side shut down from TT, you have the Rift Herald in this top side, and even though Elk has been set really far behind, you still have Aliez as this major win condition if you can get to the late game. Side lane pressure, the ability to dive new will be there when he's in his mini Gnar 4, so you still have to be quite careful here as TT, especially when they're not quite able to get the coordination that they want to on the top side play and also on that bot lane play.
Yeah, that is some Ultra Prime macro coming out right there as Chieftain getting pretty low against the Drake, but we'll be able to finish it off. That's one apiece across the board as he knew Hacker had just been up in the top side, had to reset. He would be able to take that one. So, Really nicely done by Ultra Prime to answer the pressure from TT in that bottom side with the TP. Cryin deny that advantage and find themselves a way to win this game. And now, Aliez, a lot of this will be up to you. A huge amount of gold injected into that top lane. You can see he's 800 gold up individually right now. And an even bigger lead for Hacker in the jungle, 1,200. So it feels like this top half of the map has to carry for the side of Ultra Prime. So when you look at the AD carries, it is very one-sided in favor of both.
Yeah, and that's why I think Ultra Prime kind of continuing to play through Aliez is going to be their best bet. 14 minutes is going to be coming up fairly soon, and I'd love to see even just, you know, some deep wards in behind TT's bot lane here. You've got a little bit of time here where Aliez will have his own TP up, but you won't have that same on the opposite side for new. So I think this is maybe where they could try and make some TP plays or just go for the play.
Just go for an all-in fight in the jungle. This is 3 versus 4 though, and Ultra Prime seem to be winning it somehow. I'm kind of confused, but Puff is in trouble and will just get taken down. Chieftain flashes over the wall. The Crooks might finish him, or a rocket across the map as Elk goes old school on him. 2 kills for Ultra Prime and a confident play.
And this is an Ultra Prime example of how you play around where your strong part of the map is. You have Aliez, who is incredibly fed. It just completed that Divine Sunder, so giving up some of the resources and advantages that he has in the top lane to bring him down to cover for the weak part of the map for Ultra Prime. Really good play from Ultra Prime to get some kills back in their favor, shut down TT, but also just buying some space from Elk to farm efficiently, get that turret play for themselves. Like, you'll see it here, right? Like, this is all about the damage that Hacker and that Aliez are able to bring to this fight. Puff completely separated. Hacker is just playing so well on the edge of this Crescent Guard as well to avoid all the damage from Ucal and SouthWind. Then Elk, this is the gold that he needed back in his pocket. Good flash from SouthWind because that was very close to a double kill.
Yeah, that would have been devastating. Imagine if Elk gets 2 kills off the back of that fight. He'd have his tier 2 boots by now. And would be absolutely terrifying. And the thing is, we keep on talking about this Xayah, this lethality build, how it's not going to do so hot later on into the game unless you can snowball. Well, Jinx can be the answer. If you can find gold onto Elk, if you can get him to be relatively even in gold to this lethality Xayah, you'll be able to have more of an impact later on into the game. So good things happening for Ultra Prime this time around. Almost 1,000 gold lead in their favor right now. And that's bad news for TT. When we think about how the last game went, they had much more control for a much longer time to be able to get that win.
And Ultra Prime establishing more vision on this top side. They're ready for the Rift Herald. And honestly, I don't think TT can try and take this fight. Aliez is on the bot side though, which may give them just a numbers advantage with New being here. And Ultra Prime kind of realizing that will back away. So TT just muscling their way in with the numbers.
Herald will be started up by TT, and Ultra Prime do want to contest. Aliez a long way away, but he's making his journey, making a pilgrimage all the way across the map. Herald will just be finished off. Hacker goes in to steal it, uses the ulti to try and keep himself safe. Gore Drinker keeps him alive, answers with his life though, and now a Realm Warp. Can TT find more? New in the fray, but Scout of the Week is beautiful from Cryin, and New's the one to go down instead. Elk now getting resets, trying to get the damage across, but is an early game Jinx. Still not massive damage, but with Cryin there as well, Chieftain looks to fall. Rocket available for Elk if he wants to pull the trigger, but Aliez gets the slow. They don't need the rocket. Oh, I guess they did need the rocket. It's just a little late. Look, ultimately, Ultra Prime get the fight.
It's just a celebration. Fireworks for an Ultra Prime win. That's all that Elk was going for. Nice job, though. Again, from Ultra Prime, Ali is eventually able to make it up, and you can turn that fight. That was my biggest worry for TT if they end up in the 5v5. It feels like Ultra Prime have got a really good setup here with Aliez able to dive, Hacker providing frontline, and ShiauC just buffing up whichever of those two is needed. And Cryin doing a ton of damage from this backline with Elk now having this Kraken Slayer too. Now with Dragon in 20 seconds, it feels like we just end up with round 2. And with a lot of those ultimates still on cooldown for Ultra Prime and also for TT, but at least up a little bit faster for TT.
Trying to muscle their way into the river. Drake up in 5 seconds time. It'll be second for either team, but it feels like Dagda, this game is starting to speed up. Both teams want to force the issue. They want to find advantages for themselves. Ultra Prime using the Herald in that mid lane just to get priority. It will finish the tier 1 as well. Hacker gets rooted up by the Rune Prism, as the Herald will get its charge, will finish the tower, and will buy space for Ultra Prime to move on to this Drake. TT positioning to try and contest. It's going to be a struggle for them. New about to turn Mega Gnar.
Not a huge amount of engage tools for TT, though. Front to back favors Ultra Prime.
Prime will just get the Drake. Relatively uncontested. I mean, TT showed up. They just didn't actually contest the situation, and means Ultra Prime now get themselves a Drake and might look for a team fight on top of it as well. Hacker going in here, uses that Crescent Guard. Quickness across the entire team from SouthWind with a Mega Gnar to follow. That was gorgeous from SouthWind. The flash away from ShiauC keeps himself alive. Aliez goes down, and Ultra Prime destroyed by the Rakan player. SouthWind setting up TT perfection.
And Ultra Prime were trying to just bully their way through. They're like, look, we want to try and protect mid as Hacker finds Ucal, sacrificing his life for his teammate to get out. But Ultra Prime were just like, hey, look, we can see this mid wave. TT are just trying to force us to take the long way home so they can collapse onto mid tower. And Ultra Prime just think, look, maybe we can just force our way through as that will be blocked. And they're not able to. TT with SouthWind do a wonderful job of shutting down that whole plane. We get to see in the replay here, just SouthWind hiding outside of vision this whole time. And it's ShiauC, Elk, and Cryin all linked up together. And that flash from SouthWind was beautiful. Like, gets Aliez and Cryin with the initial flash, and then has the follow-up on towards the rest of the back line. So 4 people charmed up by that quickness, and TT just run them over in that moment.
Absolutely. SouthWind, it single-handedly winning the fight. A good follow-up from New as well with the Mega Gnar. Obviously, Puff playing Xayah, you shred through multiple targets, so like it's the perfect fight to be playing a champion like Xayah there. Really, really nicely done by TT, and it means we're in a bit of a closer game than it felt like. It felt like Ultra Prime were just starting to run away with things. With that fight now, TT, sure they lost the Drake, but they've closed that gold gap. We're almost even.
And again, if TT can just find those moments, that's exactly the play. SouthWind trying to see if he can do just that here.
Oh, Aliez gets on out, though. SouthWind with the quickness will be able to get a knock-up, but there's no follow-up, or it's their Realm Warp. Forces a flash out from Aliez, but that is Realm Warp and TP used by Ucal. Then Mega Gnar, the quickness, everything being used to try and make the play, and Aliez survived. Now Ultra Prime can try and answer elsewhere on the map. Looks like they won't be able to be too aggressive. Knowers and engage out from Aliez, trying to get a bit of revenge on SouthWind, but won't find his target.
We're basically trading side lanes here for both teams. New shoving in bot side, Cryin pushing in top. Build managed to steal away a lot of the TT jungle, though, in favor of Ultra Prime. So, honestly, even though it looks a little bit funky, you called it. Summoner spell usage, gold advantage, all going over towards Ultra Prime.
Feeling pretty good for Ultra Prime here. Not on the play just yet, especially with the way SouthWind is playing this Xayah Rakan.
Oh, no.
I wish TT had discovered this combo earlier on in the split, honestly. Because it feels like this is a different TT when they're playing Xayah Rakan. It feels like they have so much more agency and so much more ability to make things happen on the map here. As everybody shows up in the mid lane, it's only Aliez elsewhere on the map. Got a bit of an ARAB. And hilariously, the team with only 4 players in the mid lane is trying to start a fight.
Gotta have to make it happen, though. Ali is still split pushing away on the spot side. Again, like, this is a much slower paced mid game than we've kind of seen in any of our other ones. It looked like the pace is going to keep up, but at least now with a minute until the Dragon, Ultra Prime still pushing in towards this mid lane. We've got Phantom Dancer completed for Elk as well, so he's actually going the full kind of, hey, look, I'm going to be totally fine to just get multiple auto attacks off in this fight. The move speed is more important for me in this fight than, say, like, the range from rapid fire cannon. I actually might have an argument, though, for saying that Ruin's Hurricane probably more valuable in this situation, just because you more than likely are hitting onto multiple people, and being able to spread that Kraken Slayer would be super nice. But either way, I prefer this build than going for the rapid fire cannon in this situation for Elk. I just don't think you get the value out of the rapid fire, and unless you are really utilizing those long range auto attacks, just the gold efficiency of that item is not great.
Tough taking a bit of a hit there from Elk. The rest of TT stacking on up to try and get involved in the play. 20 seconds on the Drake, and once again, the fight for mid prio is the big battle. Side lanes have been basically ignored all game so far by both teams, with Aliez occasionally showing up in one of them. But Drake up in 8 seconds. Ultra Prime, if they can get it, it'd be Ocean Soul point. Definitely very valuable for them. Just surviving. SouthWind trying to make a play here, trying to go into the backline. Elk the target, but he just goes down. There's no follow-up, doesn't manage to make it happen, and Aliez in, but the run warp denies it. He tried to stop the run warp happening. He tried to CC Ucal. Couldn't make it happen.
Just not quite able to get there. Bit unfortunate, but nice job from Ultra Prime. And honestly, shout out to Hacker in that situation. Disrupted SouthWind with the quickness engage by knocking him away. Hacker hadn't challenged SouthWind, so the Crescent Guard actually disrupting that nice play from SouthWind. And now Ultra Prime get their 3rd Dragon of the game. Team fight win for them as well. And you can already see pings going on towards Baron. They want to make sure that TT aren't trying to do any funny business in that area, but also just to establish some vision control over that big objective.
Stuff and 3 Drakes now. It feels like Ultra Prime slowly but surely are finding the advantages, right? It feels like they're just mildly ahead, but it's been like 55-45 the entire game, right? TT have never been out of the running. They're just a tiny bit shy of what Ultra Prime bring to the table today.
And I mean, look, at least for TT, we're starting to see where this team could land. And I think for the kind of the standout player, I know the Puff is doing really well, but honestly, it's been Ucal and SouthWind all this series for me. SouthWind has had some wonderful engages. Ucal as well has been trying his damnedest to influence the map from this mid lane. The Ari game in particular is just Ultra Prime just being better coordinated when it comes towards these fights and engagements.
That's not a good recall spot. SouthWind will be able to get out with his life at very least. But very close to getting caught on up. Kind of feels strange to see SouthWind using an IG recall on Baolan's skin after being an IG support himself for so long. It's, I don't know, weirdly poetic to see him using that one as he plays the Rakan himself. But Baron on the cards here. Aliez trying to pressure on the bottom side. Cryin moving over as well. Both of these Ultra Prime solo laners have their TPs available. So Baron isn't a huge concern for them. TT wouldn't be able to commit to the play.
Just going back to SouthWind, I know it's horrible to say, but it nearly feels like he kind of just needs to leave. SouthWind is such a, like, actually could be a really, really solid support. And I know that there's the existing love story between Puff and SouthWind, but Aliez?
Oh, good little interrupt there from Nu. The Everfrost dodged by Aliez. Hookshot wall dive should be available shortly. There's a Realm Warp. This play multiple times now happening on the bottom side from the TT solo laners. Can it answer in anything else on the map? Ultra Prime trying to get the Baron, but they're forced to recall both TPs. In fact, no, just one TP used by TT. Cryin had to use his as well. Now another TP being channeled as TT try and brute force the play. Hacker the target. He uses the Crescent Guard. He'll keep himself safe for a moment, but very long. TT, if they can find more here, they'd find a Baron for themselves, but already with the enemy jungler down, they can maybe just force the issue.
Yeah, no, jungle, 10 seconds of Aliez is up, and they can just shred this thing. So now, Cryin, Elk, how much can you do? You've got the long range. Can you use it?
Right, see, TT, 5k on the Baron. TP coming through from Aliez to join the fray once more, trying to protect their teammates as Cryin CC forever. But it doesn't matter because Elk is free firing the whole time. Puff has a lot of feathers down. Ultra Prime playing to the bottom of the river so the feathers don't hit. Nicely dodged there. SouthWind trying to get in. Health bars are so low. Elk doesn't have his rocket though, and Aliez just takes a chunk of damage. But TT forced away, and Ultra Prime now set their sights on the Baron.
It's the Uno reverse card. Now they have the jungler that can try and get into the pit, and it's TT who have to try and get in. Cryin playing keep away. He knows how low the health bars are for TT, and with Hacker here, it looks like Ultra Prime have actually forced TT back.
Certainly have, and Ultra Prime have grabbed themselves the Baron. I did not think Ultra Prime would come out on top of that trade after how it all started out with a pick onto Aliez on the bottom side of the map. The last 2 minutes have been turbulent, but it's Ultra Prime that come out on top.
And a huge amount of that is thanks to the way Cryin and Elk played that. Cryin playing far up, getting some good stuns. And even though Ucal does lock Cryin up here, you'll see it just here, the point-and-click CC comes through, but there's just no follow-up. Puff way too far away. SouthWind was trying to keep Chieftain safe in the pit with the shield, so it ends up just being no damage for Cryin. And Elk again, so much damage coming off of this fight, but we're back into it. And we're back out of it.
Yeah, they're posturing. Dragon's coming up in 35 seconds, Dagda. Talk me through. What has to happen for either of these teams? How does this happen for TT? How do they keep themselves in the game?
We already saw the example with New and SouthWind going for that big engage. That needs to happen again for TT. For Ultra Prime, it's about trying to find the poke with Cryin, where you can just slowly but surely work your way through with the long range of Cryin and Elk. And as long as Elk is untouched, this 3-item Jinx will carry this fight.
They actually could just run down mid lane if they really wanted, but Aliez is going to engage from the side. He's taking so much damage, but had a stopwatch and a hacker. Joins him in the fray. Beautifully done by Ultra Prime as they look for more. Puff is taken down. Ucal denied his French exit from the play, and Nu will fall as well. It's a beautiful fight from Ultra Prime. It'll be Soul as well, and it might just be everything as Ultra Prime. They knew they needed this win to keep themselves in playoffs, and they might just have found it, Dagda.
Just a gorgeous timing window from Ultra Prime. Nu not having his Gnar bar up and available, so Ultra Prime find that moment to engage. They collect themselves onto Puff, and Ultra Prime looking to close this one out.
Looking to, can they do it though? 10 seconds on the death time as SouthWind has been found under the tower, and Elk has crazy damage with the lethal tempo stacked on up. Chieftain falls as well, a double kill for Elk, and that will be game. The answer is yes. They can finish things off, and Elk wants a little bit more as he goes on to Ucal and just churns through the health bars. Elk going Super Saiyan at the end of this game as the Nexus will fall, and Ultra Prime keep the playoff stream alive.
All about padding that KDA at the end for Elk, but for Ultra Prime, that's a big win for them, setting themselves up to see if they can continue that playoff dream. TT sadly has gone out the window with the loss here today. Even in just one game loss was enough for them to drop out. But for Ultra Prime, if they really do want to try and contest for this top spot, this needs to be far, far cleaner. I mean, game 2, very messy. Engagement's not the cleanest.